VimBiz, true integration of scheduling, rentals, and engineering. Thank you for joining us live at NAB in Las Vegas. From planning to scheduling, presented by Alain Arsenault and Stéphane Turgeon.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our VimBiz booth. My name is Alain Arsenault, and I've recently joined this awesome company after working in the broadcast and television radio industry for 30 years. So I've done productions and script assistance, I've done research, I've produced and directed series, events, promos, and sprinkle in some editing and camera work to top it all off. So I've seen many things in my years, some good and some bad. And when it comes to planning a production, whether it's a series that has 20 to 30 episodes, a live broadcast production or sporting event, news, election night, many more, planning and budgeting. That's the key that unlocks every smooth production. So in today's reality, with the lack of qualified resources, lower ad revenues, and competition, a well-planned production goes a long way in keeping everyone happy and invested. So it's sometimes difficult to pull in every department on board and streamline these efforts towards the common goal. So departments are doing their own planning on Word, Excel spreadsheets, and everything gets a bit messy. Documents aren't shared correctly. Email, the inbox is like a disaster, so it can get very, very messy. So what is needed is a unified, dedicated system to ensure a realistic plan to help mitigate future potential issues. So in the following demonstration, my colleague will show you examples of how VimBiz can solve these challenges and more in our planning to scheduling demo. He's been with the company for over 4 years, but has 18 years of product management experience under his belt. He knows firsthand what our clients face each and every day because he's in there. He's in that ring with them, helping and guiding them to success. So ladies and gentlemen, from parts unknown, weighing 100 and XX pounds, get ready to rumble with Stéphane Turgeon.
Thank you, Alain. Thank you. For the record, I'm a little more than 100 pounds, but the head alone is 50. That's accurate. All right, thank you, everyone. Good morning. Hopefully everyone had a good night's sleep in Vegas. Sometimes it's long nights for some people, so hopefully everyone's well rested. And for you online, hopefully you're having a great afternoon or evening. All right, well, thanks for joining us. So just to give you a bit of context, a little bit about VimBiz before we dive into the details. VimBiz is an integrated suite of solutions that focuses on three main areas of a media company's operation. You've seen probably these nice blocks, so you'll see mainly scheduling, rentals, and engineering. Today's session is focused primarily on the request workflow, which we call in VimBiz the module business requirements. In the end, business requirements, what it's about, and you'll probably hear me use the acronym BR, by the way. Business requirements is about defining what you need for a production project. So you may need, for example, various roles. An example, camera operators, editors. You may need a facility. And in VimBiz facilities, we refer to maybe studios, edit suites, a mobile truck, for example. Or you may need equipment. So what BR is about, it's really defining what those requirements are. And not only that, it's essentially allowing you then to request these resources for the teams to allocate them. And that's the beauty with VimBiz. It's fully integrated, meaning as you're defining your needs within the business requirement, you hit a button and just magically the scheduling and the equipment logistics team know immediately that there's requirements that need to be fulfilled. Alrighty, and I'm just going to also give you some detail around our international presence. For those of you who do not know, so VimBiz is implemented in 10 countries, and we're really proud about that. Also, I also wanted to mention that recently we've implemented or gone live with the NRK group in Norway, and they've also been using the business requirement module as well to plan for the various resources. There's also the group in Switzerland, SRG SSR, that's also planning on using the BR later this year as they go live. My apologies. Also just wanted to mention our longest standing customers, SVT in Sweden and DR in Denmark, which have also shown interest around the request workflow, around the business requirement module. A few other things that we're proud of, but also wanted to mention our friends in Canada, Dome Productions, that's also using the request workflow. They use it. They use a business requirement to really define the requirements and also plan financially. The quotes, for example, sending quotes over to their customers for those requirements. I did want to point out as well some latest additions to our portfolio of customers, TFO in Canada and La Sete in Italy, which have been using VimBiz, but also it was a replacement from Schedule. So they used our importation tools to move over their data, and it was a seamless move to VimBiz. Alrighty, so I'll move over to the demo. That's really the key part here. And I'm just going to open VimBiz. And again, we're focusing on the BR, business requirement. So in the end, I'm going to open this form. And what my BR is about, it's listing out all my requests. So me, maybe as a production manager, I'm going to wear the hat of a production manager. I may have multiple requests that are in. I've sent some requests from some projects. Or I could also be collaborating with others on a given production where I need to help define those requirements. I'm just going to open one business requirement, the OB mobile production, and this just gives you an idea. Of course, generally when you plan, there's a lot more details than just these few lines that we have listed here, but it gives you an example that, okay, well, I can request for equipment. I could also request an OB mobile truck, for example, or a studio or an edit suite, and various roles. So in the end, I'm defining what those requirements are. The beauty of BR is if you're using VimBiz and you're configuring your rates, you're also defining the cost of these resources. So as soon as you add resources to the BR, it's essentially calculating the cost to the project. So just as you're adding these requirements, you can see the impact of the project right away. We offer many tools within the BR. So the main concept is we've tried to create the BR so it's a basic tool that you can add all the requirements, a few days, and you submit the request, and it's simple and fast. But if you decide that you want to do detailed planning, we actually have customers that use the BR, and they define the start time of each individual role, even the amount of hours they'll work, potentially if they'll be working on a pre-production or a production day, so really defining the details within the BR. So I've been focusing quite a bit on the planning aspect, but also I mentioned it's a budgeting tool, but also we've been focusing on the BR for the last 4 years of evolving it, giving better tools, making sure that there's efficiency, better communication, transparency within VimBiz. And one thing that we focused on is communication. And within my example, and very simple, you'll see that there's a Vim Notes column. And what Vim Notes is about is of course, you can document specific things. You may need a reminder on a requirement. But the main purpose of Vim Notes is I can document a note that's going to be shared with the scheduling team or the equipment logistics team. So I could define that maybe this assistant producer role, I may have picked up the phone and I spoke to Flavia, a freelancer, and I know that she'll be doing or fulfilling this role. So I want to tell the scheduling team that I've had that discussion and to assign this freelancer to this requirement. So the idea with Vim Notes, again, is that constant back and forth. So if I wanted to communicate additional details about the requirement, I could add more notes. And we'll see a little later when I start assigning these events to employees, I can even respond to these. So as a scheduler, again, me referring to my hats, if I wear the scheduling hat, well, I could communicate maybe to the production manager that this employee is not available, or maybe something specific needs to change, or maybe the employee needs to start at a different time. So that's that communication aspect within VimBiz. The other part is we've added collaboration tools within VimBiz. So obviously, I'm only scratching the surface here today, but under the permissions tab, the idea is that you're not just one person working alone and trying to plan all or orchestrate this whole thing. You can invite people to collaborate with you, and I'll give you a few examples. So maybe me as a production manager, I can define my requirements, but I may need the equipment manager to help me because I don't know all the equipment that's needed for a given production. So I may need them to log into VimBiz and open the BR and maybe define that, okay, well, you need additional cables or you need additional equipment. So that's one thing. Another example could be that you don't want anyone to change this request, but you maybe want them to view only. An example, I may have hired a technical producer and I want them to view these requirements before the actual production starts. So this is another example around permission and collaboration, okay? So within the BR right now, just bear with me, we went through the requirements, we went through the tools, but as I end up defining all my requirements, I can click submit. And just by the click of a button, I'm essentially communicating to the scheduling team all my needs. And I'll show you in a little bit how to do those allocations. One thing I did want to point out is within the BR, there's an authorization workflow if required. So in my example, I'm using the simple workflow that as soon as I hit that submit button, everything's authorized and it goes straight to the scheduling team. But if you want your department to maybe have an authorization process, you could have, let's say, a production manager or a requester submit the BR, and maybe the manager of that said department needs to review the requirements, authorize it, and then the scheduling team will see those requirements. Okay, so now that I've submitted my BR, I'm going to, again, me referring to my hats, I'm going to change the requester hat. I'm going to now be a scheduler, and I'm going to open the business request allocation form. To give some background on this form, obviously a scheduling form, this is all about seeing what the requirements are for a given production, and it really allows me to focus on what we call virtual resources, so things that need to be assigned to actual employees or facilities. So in my example, I'm using the ROI in 30 seconds. I'm just going to return this project, and I believe I had submitted this for April 22nd. And I should have my facility events that show in yellow, so you'll see here at the top. So this is what I was referring to before. So any time that you see a yellow line in this form, it's telling you that, oh, okay, there's requirements that I need to assign to a resource. And in this case, these are my 4 requirements where I was asking for an OB mobile. Within this form, if I select these 4 events and I hit F5 or refresh, you'll see that VimBiz actually tells me that based on this requirement, you've asked for an OB mobile. I'm going to tell you which OB mobiles are available for these requirements. Before I assign them, I just want to also show you the depth of data that we have within VimBiz. So what I did now is I just double-clicked on one of the facilities, the 4K1 facility, and you'll see that we're storing quite a bit of information around the facility. But not only that, the main thing I wanted to show you is that we also track assets. So obviously, a studio or an OB truck may have specific equipment. So cameras could have gear that you want to track that's available on that truck. And the reason why I'm saying that is, if you remember, in my requirement, I was stating I needed equipment, I needed rolls, and I needed an OB mobile truck. So now that my OB mobile truck is going to be assigned, we're going to move over to the rental request in VimBiz to show you what we can harvest from this facility. Okay, I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to do my assignment to 4K1. So there we go. That is assigned. And now we're going to move over. Again, we're wearing hats here. So now the facility is assigned. But then if I go and wear the equipment logistics hat, I'm just going to go to my rental requests. So now the equipment that I had in my business requirement is now moved over to the rentals team. So if you remember earlier, I had lighting, and I believe I was asking for a camera as well. So you'll see here, if I move over to the facilities tab, I have lights that were requested and a camera. And this is where this is key, right? So before I opened up the facility and I saw that I had assets assigned to the facility, and I can, now that it's assigned, I see that this 4K camera actually has equipment that I can leverage from that facility that was assigned. So that means I'm not bothering the equipment logistics team to pull things from the warehouse or from a shelf. They really are able to say, oh, you know what, those 3 cameras, I can use them from the truck, and then the leftover, the lights, they can then submit a rental, and then that's taken out of the warehouse. I'm not going to go into that level of detail because my friend Tom later will be demonstrating the rental module as well. So in here, I'm just going to click this button, which is essentially saying, try to use what you can from the facility that's assigned, and then we can fulfill the rental a little later. So you see the check mark. Okay, so now we've assigned the facility, we've assigned some of the equipment from that truck, and now we're going to go move over to the employee events. So from this tab, now I'm not focusing on facility requirements anymore, but I'm focusing on role requirements. So if you remember, there was a camera operator that was being requested, and we had assistant producers as well. And you'll see here again, the yellow lines are all virtual employees, or virtual requirements, I should say, that requires assignment. Again, same standard concept. If I select those 4 events and I hit F5, VimBiz is actually going out saying, oh, you want a camera operator? Well, hold on. I can go look at the employees configured within VimBiz and who can fulfill that requirement. It just so happens that Christina Gomez is my best candidate here for those requirements. But before I do the assignment, I just wanted to show you that Christina Gomez also has that data. Remember, I keep saying that within VimBiz, you can configure the data, you can add all the information that you want, which also helps VimBiz help you. In the end, if I open up Christina Gomez's profile, she has multiple roles that she can fulfill. Producer, anchorman, camera operator, and she also has skills. So within VimBiz, if you tell me which employee has specific roles or even skills, VimBiz will try to match those resources to the requirement. Okay, so I'm just going to assign this one specific role. I'm not going to do all the assignments, but just to give you an idea that, okay, I just moved over those 4 events and I've assigned it to Christina. One key thing I did want to mention, so within VimBiz, I've been joking around saying, well, we're wearing multiple hats here, but within the BR, I was wearing that requester or production manager hat, and ultimately I made a request, right? And I sent that over to the scheduling team, and then I wore the scheduling hat. Well, within VimBiz, we don't want a production manager or requester to have to go dig for those details to find out, is it even resolved to start with? So really, we focused on the BR module to give you that information. So if a production manager is used to working in the BR, they will stick with the BR and be able to find out if their requirements are resolved. So if you're wondering, Stefan, what are you even talking about? So I'm just going to go back to my business requirement and I'll actually give you an example. So if I open up the OB mobile production and I view my requirements. So notice before this, when I started, I had all these requirements and I didn't necessarily know if they were resolved or not. But now that I have assigned my OB mobile requirement, so remember earlier I assigned that 4K1 truck, well now it's telling me that that's been resolved. So this is sort of my checklist telling me that I don't need to worry. The team's actually doing their jobs really well and they're assigning those resources. So the mobile truck's been assigned. I can see that the camera requirement's fulfilled because if you remember, I was able to use the cameras that were off the truck. So that's also resolved. And I can see that the scheduling started happening because now I have a gray check mark, which is communicating that the whole requirement's not fulfilled yet, but part of it's been assigned already. Okay? A few more things I want to mention. So before, I talked about Vim notes and communication, and I mentioned that I could add a note here and communicate something to the scheduler. Well, if I realized after the fact that I've submitted this request and people have started doing assignments, I can, if I want to, open up a Vim note and add an additional note for the person. So if I was to add a note, well, the scheduler, as soon as they refresh their form within VimBiz, they'll see the latest note. So I could, let's say, add an additional note here, and obviously I'm logged in as Mitch, but I'll just say spoke to Flavia, and I will need to find someone else as a freelancer. Long message. There we go. So I added an additional note. So me being in the BR, I can then go as a scheduler and I'll see that note that's available to me. So I'm just going to close the BR quick. And I'm going to go back here in the business request allocation form. And you'll see, and maybe it's not as obvious on the on this screen, but I'm going to remove the text. And you'll see that there's a little buddy icon here on the event. And if I was to right-click this and view my Vim notes, you'll see that the note that I left in the BR was now added to the scheduling side. So really you can see that there's that collaboration aspect where you can do that back and forth, and the BR module speaks with the scheduling module. Okay, I'm just gonna close this and move over again to my business requirement. So the other part that I wanted to mention is that earlier I was stating that You can do planning on requirements, you can work with your financials, but I'll also demonstrate that BR has other tools. So I'll give you an example. If ever that you find yourself producing the same request over and over again, and me being, I'll use sports as an example, but me being a Montreal Habs fan, if let's say there's a hockey game that occurs multiple times throughout the year, maybe there's 5 games that we produce, and I know what those requirements are, or at least 95% of those requirements, well, why do I need to produce a request from scratch every time? So what we did within VimBiz is we created the concept of templates. So it's all about efficiency. So in the end, I may want to create a brand new business requirement. And as I create this requirement, I'll just call this Studio 5 days. I'll be very brief with my example. So I'm just going to say this is maybe from April 29th to May 3rd, and I'm going to add my 5 days to it. And what I wanted to show is now I've put in a request, or I'm creating the BR for 5 days, and I don't have requirements yet, but I know that I have a nice template that I went through all these details to define the requirements and the details behind them. So I'm just going to go in and pick a single day template, and I'll pick this nice template, 1 day. And just by picking the Studio Production 1 day template and doing a save and close, it takes all those requirements and sets it for the 5 days that I added to my request. And I just want to show quick, if I go to bookings, which I didn't go before, bookings is where we have all the details if you wanted to change start times or duration or the activity. And you'll see just by applying this template, we have all these events, and I even had meals involved. So we have customers that use BR that actually plan to the level of a meal. So kudos for the hard work. And then when we have all the details within a template, that means I can leverage this over and over and over again, saving all that time, not having to produce these brand new requests from scratch. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Okay. One additional factor that I wanted to share with you is that the BR is about defining those requirements. And earlier, you probably saw in one of the yellow blocks, I had the wording scheduling automation. So in the business request, when I submit these requirements, I'm telling VimBiz, here's what I need. But then within VimBiz, you can actually do the scheduling. But you've configured your employees accordingly. You've told VimBiz what roles they can fulfill. So VimBiz can actually try to automate that scheduling. So we've been working on a tool called ScheduleBot, and I'll just show you quickly what that looks like. But essentially, it's taking all those virtual requirements, and it's going to do that automatic assignment. And I'm just going to close the business requirement here, and I'm going to move over to my business request allocation form. And I had an example already set up just so that I don't waste anyone's time here. But really, I'm going to work with a few different teams or groups. And I'm going to work with January 2025. So we'll see that there's quite a few shifts involved, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit as well so you can see the depth of all those shifts. So I have all these requirements that are listed. So I have all these shifts that I know I need to fulfill, but I may not know the employee yet. So the idea with the ScheduleBot is when I hit this button, VimBiz is now analyzing all of these shifts or these shift requirements, and it's saying, okay, I know I need journalists, so let me go find in VimBiz all the employees that can fulfill that journalist role. Or you may have gone to the level of detail that, and you see all these blocks starting to move. So what's happening is VimBiz is trying to find the best match possible. And if, let's say, you need a journalist that can speak French and English, and you've told VimBiz this within your request, well, ScheduleBot is going to try to do that assignment to find the best resource. So you'll see with the click of a button, it processed over 67% of those requirements, and it assigned all those shifts to all those employees. And that's a tool that we've been working on because now that we have this nice business requirement module to define the requirements, you can then utilize that data to do that automatic assignment. Okay, I just wanted to maybe open the floor. I'm pretty sure I'm good on time still, but I just wanted to check if there's any questions around the request process. No questions. Well, excellent. Well, I wanted to thank everyone who joined me today, either in person or also online. So I wish you all a fantastic day, and thanks for joining. Have a great day.